Hello, welcome into another Monday Night live stream. This one should be a good one for those of you who like video topics, including Blackmagic, 2110, IP video, and we'll just say television in general. I assume the first part of the stream will be all Blackmagic 2110 stuff, and then we'll see where it goes. So anyway, let's check to see who's here. I see we already have 8 viewers and 4 likes. So that is good. There is no speed test on, so hopefully the stream does not get interrupted. If it does, that's a whole other conversation, and I'll probably dip into that later on. So let's see here. Who is all here? David Grishko asks, is this about 2110? And the answer is yes, it is. Joe came here to try to beat David, but as usual, David is almost always first. I swear he lives in YouTube. Joe says that he pre-ordered the small battery powered panel for his 2ME. That is pretty cool. I'm curious to see how that works. Nils says to Joe, better luck next time. Toro is in the house. Nils is in the house. I could talk about that later, maybe. Yeah, basically, I guess I'll just talk about it now. Basically, CBS had a timing mistake and cut off the last 2 minutes of the show on almost every station in the country. So they are re-airing the concert Friday night at 9 p.m. Kevin Tennant is here. I used to go to school with Kevin. Good to see you, Kevin. Kevin and I had a lot of technical conversations late at night, usually involving Wendy's and chicken. Late night snacks. While in college, Kevin and I did a 33-hour dance marathon broadcast. Basically, we went and covered the entire dance marathon plus an hour. To date, it's my longest continuous broadcast I've ever done by far. Yeah, we could talk about that for a long, long time. Maybe I should just have Kevin, if you'd be interested in coming on at some point, let me know. We could probably bring you on. Kevin does a lot of cool things this day with imaging and stuff, video work, so we could probably talk about that. He does a lot of cool stuff based on his photos he sends me. So you guys would probably get a kick out of that. And gosh, it's been a long time since I've actually seen or talked to Kevin in person. But glad you're here, Kevin. Yes, it's a very popular topic today. Bob Carpenter is here. Glad to see you. Yes, this was the actual concert from Madison Square Gardens. It was 2 hours. Well, the program was 2 hours minus commercial breaks. And so if you want to watch it, Friday night, 9 p.m., your local CBS affiliate, you can watch it. Kevin says the 33-hour broadcast was magical. Yeah, I mean, the first one was. The second one, I fell and hurt my knee. So that was not so fun. What, was that the 33-hour one? Boy, it's been a while. Yeah, that's right. So I actually fell at the second one and hurt my knee. And that is why my knee still hurts to this day. Although the pain is gone because I've been treating it correctly. But my knee still has issues. Yes, as Kevin pointed out. Ironically, Kevin, we just talked about that the other day because Andrew posted a photo of him and I in the control room, and we were trying to figure out what year it was. And so we went back and figured out it was 2005. So as a uh, junior in college. I actually rebuilt an entire control room with Kevin and some other people. We rewired the whole control room and rebuilt everything while we were still in college, and that was our summer vacation. We didn't go to spring break. We didn't do that kind of stuff. We stayed there and rebuilt a control room because that's the kind of TV nerds, I guess, nerds you would call us. We also used to just like go do one newscast at 5 o'clock and then walk down the street and do a live broadcast at 8 p.m. at night. Um, yeah, we did all kinds of crazy stuff. Joe says you would watch it, but have a member only stream per. Okay. Um, well, if you saw the show 7 or 8 years ago, it's the same show, only it was recorded like recently. So, but it's the same show, I'm sure. Yes, and as Kevin points out, they did in fact destroy the building. We spent so many hours, and the building is no longer there. You could watch an hour and 58 of it. Touche. Ernesto, yes, so far nothing's really caught my eye other than the Blackmagic announcement, but I haven't been following along. I've been pretty busy. Um, I've been to NAB. Actually, I've been to NAB with Kevin. We went to there one time as part of our student organization. Um, it was interesting. It was fun to see, but I don't know how often I'd want to go back. It's a lot of pushing and shoving to get to things. People are everywhere. Some of the products are real. Some of the products don't seem so real. Um, if you don't have the money to spend on stuff, then really you're just kind of going there and you're like basically going, I want that, but I can't buy that. So there's pros and cons to it. And when we went to NAB, we had a shopping list and a budget. And so we had an agenda. We went to the places we needed to go to. We talked to people we needed to see. It was very productive. Um, but if I didn't have that, I wouldn't want to go back because I feel like you see a lot of stuff that you're just like I said, you're hoping or you want it, and you're like, well, great, but I can't buy it, or it doesn't come out until whatever, and so I don't know. There's like I said, there's pros and cons to it. I'd like to go back someday. I just don't know if I'd go every year. And yeah, as Kevin points out, we were students, so it was a great learning experience, and we didn't have to pay for the whole thing, so that helped a lot. Um, but yeah, like I said, we'll have to get Kevin on, and we can have a conversation about all the stuff we used to do and trouble we used to get into. Well, I don't know about trouble, but um, some of the stuff we did. Kevin also used to do sports. He did sports for a lot longer than I did sports. So we could talk about some of the sports productions that he's been on. Um, he's been on some big ones, so that would be fun. All right, so let's see here. Anything else I missed? I know I skipped over a couple of comments. Nothing. Okay. So, NAB and Blackmagic. So basically, they released some 2110 stuff. Now, I should probably just get the kind of I don't say the obvious, the conversation out of the way first. When it comes to IP video, there's two kinds of video that are popular. There's NDI, and then there's 2110. And 2110 is a SMPTE standard, which is the Society of Motion Pictures and Television Engineers. They have adopted the SMPTE standard, or this standard called 2110. There are flavors of 2110, but basically it's 2110. And there's NDI, which is a new tech product that they basically spun off into its own company called NDI. It's a standard. You have to license it, which is, if you haven't already figured out, there's the first problem. And basically, they're all multicast, or they're both multicast, and they both basically have like protocols that basically control how the video is sent out. NDI has the announce protocol built in. So basically, when you open up an NDI device, it says, hey, I'm here. You can use me, or you can see me. 2110, as far as I know, does not have that. So there's a difference. So you may think NDI is better, but NDI does not scale very well. There's also some issues I run into personally where you have different versions of NDI. You have version 3 or version 4. You have HX, which is their high compression one. You have their less compressed one. Well, that creates some confusion. That creates issues, because if I'm building a product, and I'm building a product, and I built it off of version 3 SDK, the SDK that they give you, you bought essentially. And let's say B, or company B over here, bought the newer version. And this is a real world example I dealt with. So this is coming from, I'm just trying to avoid the names because it's irrelevant at this point. But let's just say A is on 3.0 and B is on 4.0, and 4.0 supports HX, but 3.0 does not. Then you literally could have products that cannot talk to each other, even though they're speaking the same language, or similar language, I guess you could say. Welcome in, Jeremy. So basically, like I said, you have NDI, but because of the different flavors and the way it's built and whatnot, that you have these incompatibilities where things don't talk to each other the way you would think they should talk. And I literally had a situation where I had to wait for a vendor to update their firmware so that the things could talk NDI, even though I bought them to talk, because they both supported NDI. Remember this, because we're going to talk about compatibility in a little bit, and it's going to rear its ugly head again. So am I saying that 2110 is the greatest thing ever? No. But is it better than NDI? I would say yes. NDI, or 2110, is designed by, and supported by a lot of manufacturers, and they're all compatible as far as I know. I've never actually touched 2110, so just disclaimer, I've never used it, but I have used things like it, like NDI. I've also used Livewire, which is audio over IP instead of video over IP. Similar philosophies, similar multicast things. It supports standards that 2110 supports, so there are some similarities there. So I should probably just make this disclaimer that I'm not an expert. I've not used any of this stuff. I've not designed any of this stuff. I just know what I've read and what I've seen on the internet and what I've heard through sitting through webinars. So yeah, some questions. Oh, this is a yes. They speak the same language but cannot communicate. 2110, I believe, is an open standard that you can adopt. Whereas NDI, you have to buy it from NDI, and you don't get to peer into it. It's just you have to use their SDK. You have to use whatever their chips are. You don't get to pull it apart. So, yeah. So I guess let's kind of look at. So I guess let's step back a second. So there's your NDI horror story. 2110 is designed to be more open. The one thing that I really like about 2110 is you can pull apart the audio and video. So let's say you're an audio board. All you care about is audio. So you can call up a source and say, I want to get the audio from that source. I don't care about the video source. I just want the audio. Likewise, you're a video switcher. You can call up that same source and say, give me the video feed, ignore the audio. NDI doesn't do that. NDI is one. You can't break it apart. You have to subscribe to the whole feed. So SMPTE 2110 is designed to be, you know, more universal. It is supported by companies as, I'm going to say cheap, but as low end as Blackmagic, all the way up through Evertz, which makes a lot of production gear, to Sony, which makes a lot of production gear, and Imagine Communications, which makes high-end broadcast gear. It also is supported by, I believe, Lavo, or I probably pronounce that Huawei. No. LAWO. I can't remember how you pronounce it. But so a lot of manufacturers, big manufacturers, have adopted 2110. They're not adopting NDI. So there's reasons for that. The first 2110 production truck hit the road, I want to say like 10 years ago. So this standard's not exactly new. What is new is Blackmagic's adoption of it, because that to me is a game changer. Or in this case, they're changing the landscape. Because if I can buy a product that does 2110 and it doesn't cost a whole lot more than the SDI version, well, that's pretty damn good. And if I can buy a couple of them or a dozen of them and throw them down somewhere, and if they get destroyed, I'm not out a lot of money, because things get destroyed on events, things get legs and walk away. So if I can throw down a monitor or a converter to feed a monitor, and it's $250 and it breaks, okay, fine, that sucks, but that's not the end of the world. But so that's where Blackmagic kind of fits this little thing, like if they're good enough to support 2110, and they're cheap enough that if they were to get destroyed, no one's going to lose sleep over it, well, that's huge. That's a big change for the industry. Because previously to this, everyone used SDI, and everyone just talked SDI. But now, if you want to go 2110, you either have to get all these converters to go back to SDI, or you need converters that take in 2110 and output SDI or HDMI for a monitor. Blackmagic seems to be targeting that market, which is, I think, very smart. So I was very impressed to see the announcement where they released a ton of 2110 products. So let me go to their little webpage and let's just look at what they released. They released a bunch of their gear. I'm not going to talk about it. I do not honestly care about their cameras. I'm not a big camera person, and I would never use Blackmagic cameras. I'm also not big DaVinci, but they do this. This replay editor is very interesting. I do want to see more about this. Kevin, who I don't know if you're still here or not, Kevin, but Kevin used to run replay in the big trucks for sports people, sports broadcast, I mean. So he could talk a lot about replay. Most people use what they call EVS, and it's basically the standard replay machine. And there is not a cheap way to do replay. The cheapest option for replay these days is vMix. I still don't understand how vMix can incorporate replay at the price that they do, but they do. This has me interested, because if this can do replay in a way that makes sense, then I think it's cool. If it's proprietary and very different than what people are used to, I don't know how far it's going to go. And I think some of you know how I've tried DaVinci Resolve. It kind of makes sense in a way, but in a way I don't like it. So again, I would really want to see this product in use before I just said it's the greatest thing in the world. But I am happy to see Blackmagic actually getting involved in the replay game, because again, that lower, cheaper area where they seem to play very well at. If they can lower the cost of entry, if they can make a product that works, then that's great. Several people have tried to do replay differently, and they just have made a device, and then it doesn't really go anywhere, or it gets adopted by a couple people. It doesn't really change the game. Grass Valley made the Dreamcatcher, and that's probably the only, correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but I think the Dreamcatcher is the only competitor EVS has had in some time. Do I think DaVinci or do I think Blackmagic's going to rival that? No, but if they can make a cheap replay machine that works, I'm curious to see it. DaVinci Resolve color panel, not too interested in that. The Blackmagic Ethernet switch we'll come back to in a second. Blackmagic Cloud Store, again, not really interested in it. But here's where things get interesting. The Blackmagic Media Player 10G, which is the their version of 2110 stuff, I think that's 2110, is interesting. But it's these right here, these Blackmagic IP converters. This is where I think the game changes. And so we talked about 2110. It conforms to the 2110 IP standard, give or take a second. We'll come back to that. But here's their converters. And it uses 10 gigabit Ethernet. And there's a reason for that. We'll get to that in a second. It's incredibly easy to install. So they say you connect it to an Ethernet switch, blah, blah, blah. Here's the problem with those, and is that switching, if you remember before, where I said NDI announces itself, 2110 doesn't, you need some software to route stuff. So if I want to route a feed to this monitor, but then I want to change it, how do I change it? The 2110 standard uses NMOS for that kind of stuff. So you need an NMOS server software tool to be able to make that route change. There hasn't really been one that anybody could afford. So, is this simple? You know, before you would connect a converter and you just have a point-to-point source. But now you can connect them to an Ethernet switch, and using, where'd it go? Oops. So, originally they had a product out. It was just point to point. And I'm sorry, I'm scrolling. I'm just trying to figure out where this software went. Oh wait, it was backup page. I'm sorry. This. They released this. This is the Ethernet switch. Why it's called 360p is beyond me, but that's what they called it. And so this has got NMOS. This is your video router. It's also your Ethernet switch. You can plug your devices into this switch and via this front panel, route video sources around like you would in the SDI world. That is a game changer, because now you can buy a device, you can plug in your converters, and you can route video, and you didn't have to configure anything else. That's huge. So, I mean, that to me, when I saw that, I'm going, okay, hold on, stop. Now we got something to talk about, because if I can route video around in IP form without having to configure out multicast addresses and all the other stuff that you would typically have to prior to Blackmagic doing this, well, that's huge. If it's really that easy. Now, disclaimer, I have not touched this product. I have not seen it. I have not used it. I haven't seen anyone actually break it down, like into, starting from scratch and building it. I'm sure that people will be. But if that delivers on what it promises, that's pretty big. That's really big. I should probably check on the chat because I see it flying by here for a second. Let me go back up to the top. Do they sell proprietary adapters To allow them to talk. That's a failed money grab from them, if not. Is this referring to NDI or 2110? Because both make adapters now. Both have adapters out there, I should say, that work. The Bird Dog line of products all speak NDI, as far as I know. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure. I should say a lot of the Bird Dog products speak NDI. And that was actually one of the products I had. I had a Bird Dog NDI encoder decoder, and it could not talk to the what they called production truck software because one spoke version 3 and one spoke version 4. So hopefully I answered your question. I don't know of any. There are 2110 cameras at the high end where they have the CCU and the CCU outputs 2110. I am not aware of any cameras that have 2110 built in yet. NDI also changed a whole lot over a few versions from, yes, like I said, NDI was changing a lot. You had version mismatches, and I think that hurts them. I really think that hurt them a lot. Yeah, I'm sure the cameras are going to have it built in pretty soon. Nils, I still won't forget the vulnerability you found during... I don't recall this. I'm curious what this was referencing to. DaVinci is nice. I can't argue with 3. Yeah, Kevin's done way more switching and camera engineering than recently, but I bet you could still run an EVS machine. Yeah, NMOS is the control protocol. Yeah, and NMOS is how you basically route stuff or how you control it. I don't remember what it stands for. What does NMOS stand for? Yeah, so NMOS is, like I said, it's for basically managing and routing. Doesn't actually say what it stands for. But yeah, it's basically how they control how you control stuff. So in this Ethernet switch, let's say you have monitor 1 and you have camera 1, but you tell an NMOS, basically you say, okay, route, camera 1 or monitor 1, look at video camera 1's feed. But then you say, I want to change it up. And so then you tell the monitor to subscribe, if you will, to camera 2's feed. That's the NMOS at work. That's the routing. That's what's actually saying, hey, route. In the SDI world, when you route video, the centralized frame, which is, what you always have in a SDI router, is a centralized frame where all the video comes into. It's making the changes. So the router physically says, okay, essentially unplug this cable and plug this one in. In IP, it doesn't do that. They're all multicast. So you have to tell devices what channel, essentially, to subscribe to, or what IP address do you subscribe to, and what port do you subscribe to. And then you have to change that based on what you're wanting to route to it. Hopefully that made sense. If it didn't, I will try it again. Yes, I don't understand. Wow, Joe. I feel like I knew it was going to come. Nice hashtag. I should adopt that one. Okay. Yeah, to me, that was the big changer. Uh, oh, that's a good one, David. Um, that's a good one. Their new hardware control panel for the video hub also functions as a router. Okay. Nobody shoots on film these days. Nobody. Kevin played with Bird Dog during COVID. Okay. Yeah, I have a Bird Dog story. I'm not gonna get into it here, but yeah. Welcome in, David. Oh, the game show. That's right. He did a game show. Yeah, I filed an extension too. So it's you see it for free, but every product you buy has to pay for that license to use it. And if you're doing a small production, let's say five, six, eight cameras at most, you know, NDI works. It's not a bad thing. What I don't see it doing is scaling very well, especially when when you try to pull pieces apart, like you want to pull like that video stream or audio stream out of a source. It doesn't do that. Um, and because it has to announce itself, you get to a problem where, let's say, um, you know, the Masters was this weekend. The Masters is shot on a golf course, as you obviously know. It's the golf tournament. Everything on that golf tournament, in terms of video production, is sent across fiber because it's a golf course. It's huge. So if you have video sources at this end and video sources at this end that are IP based, like 2110, because I assume they shot it in 2110. I could be wrong. Haven't read up on it, but let's just say I'm doing the Masters in 2110. I'm plugging in sources in all around the golf course, and they're all IP based. And so I plug them in. If they all have to announce themselves and say, "Here I am," that's a lot of traffic. What happens in routers and traditional SDI routing method is there's a master list. In the controller, I go in and I specify camera 1 is this input, camera 2 is this input, camera 3, and so on and so forth. In the higher end routers, I can also specify the audio. So I can say it has 16 channels of audio, and that means allows me to route those and pull those out. So if I go into this master database and I sit there and say, here's all these things, and then you're a replay operator, like, say, Kevin in a truck, you get a little panel and you care about these 8 sources or 10 sources, and I can tell you, you push, think of it like a Stream Deck. So in the router, I would assign this to be camera 1, camera 2, camera 3. When you push that button, you're telling the router to change a physical input, or in the IP world, to change a different multicast, because there's a centralized database. There's no centralized database for managing NDI. I don't know how you would tell in NDI world that this button is a source, because there's no master database. Everything just announces itself, and you have to go into the software and say, I care about this feed, I care about this one. Whereas in production trucks, which Kevin and I worked in, everybody has router panels like this, and they get huge. You have to have a master database. You have to have a list of sources that come in that, the replay operator doesn't care what IP address the camera's on. It doesn't care about any of that. All he says is, I want cameras 1, 5, 7, and 10. So the engineer goes in and says, here's camera 1, 5, 7, and 10. And behind the scenes, they would have to say, camera 1 is this IP address, camera 2 is, or 5, or whatever it is this IP address. In NDI, there's no way to do that I'm aware of. There's no way to tell it, this camera is this address and this camera is this address, and hey, by the way, router panel, you can call up your NDI sources, because it's not NMOS. There's no router control protocol in NDI. It's just announcements. So that's why I say it doesn't scale, because your software has to be aware of all the sources and it has to choose what it wants to listen to. Where in the big trucks where you have, 7 or 8 trucks combined to make a broadcast, that's not going to fly. There has to be a centralized database that usually one engineer is managing, and all he's sitting doing there, he or she, is sitting there and is putting sources in and is routing things. And then, like I said, with the advanced routers, I can pull I can pull audio away. So I could pull audio channels 3 and 4 off of this source, and I could route them to channels 1 and 2 on a different video feed and create different mixes, and I can pull things apart and recombine them in the router. 2110 allows for that. NDI does not. So I hope that answers your question, and you can kind of understand why. I'm not saying NDI is bad at all. I mean, we use NDI at the university for graphics, because it's a great way to send graphics from the front bench to the production room, which is in the back row and is 2 rooms over. It's a great way to send, stuff across the network, but we only have 4 cameras, 1 graphics machine, and everything's based off a vMix machine. If I was trying to do that in a truck or a trailer, that'd be fine too. But at the scale that we're talking about, the scale of video that I do on a day-to-day basis, where I have 128 inputs and 128 outputs, that's not going to work very well. 720p should be enough for everyone. Yeah. Yeah, so Kevin worked on several golf remotes. Stream Decks are amazing. They are not video router panels. I just made sure my browser always has the most up-to-date stream. Oh, that's for the thing before. Yeah, Stream Decks are great. I have purchased, this is mine, but I have purchased 3 or 4 at the station. They're awesome. Kevin says how long have you been at your current job, Kevin? I forget. I like this technical critique of underlying choices. Oh, okay. So there is, well, yeah, because NDI, I think, uses the MDNS to announce itself, or you can run a discovery server. So I guess they've come a little bit further than I have, learned about them. Because when I had it, there was no NDI discovery server when I first got an NDI a couple years ago. Eric says MDNS. Yeah, I don't know if they used MDNS or not, but probably did. Kevin's been away for 10 years. Okay. Oh, Tech Condo is here. Welcome in, Petra. I actually did not go to NAB. I'm just discussing stuff. Are you there, Petra? I'm assuming you're in Las Vegas. All right, so let's go back. Um, let's go back to the thing. So, like I said, oh, Petra is in Las Vegas. Okay. Yeah, if you guys don't subscribe to Tech Condo or Petra's channel, I would recommend it. He does a lot of gig reports that are pretty interesting and fascinating. Kind of learning how they do things. Is it the Netherlands? I feel like you're in the Netherlands. um, Correct me if I'm wrong. Um, yeah, Bob Carpenter just shared the link. So this, like I said, this is what I was when I saw this was announced. I was like, okay, now we got something that people can start to use, and and it routes video around. So like I said, it can route your 2110. They have some cloud storage stuff. I'm not sure about that. I'm not really interested in that. It has 16 10 gig connections and then two 100 gig connections, which is going to be great when you're routing video around. And this is kind of shows you. So you bring your camera in, it goes to the Ethernet switch, and then your edit stations or whatever can pull the video feeds over the network and choose what they want to listen to. And think this is kind of showing you, in this case, it can record to the cloud. Again, not discussing that part of the thing because I really don't know how that works. So here is what a router panel looks like. They come in all kinds of flavors. You basically have sources, destinations, then you have actions, if you will. And I can probably find one of the big router panels. I'm sure I have pictures of it from previous remotes. If you want to see like a big router panel, I could show you that, or what a big switcher looks like, or router, I could show you that too. Oopsie, didn't mean to do that. Yes, okay, based in the Netherlands. That's what I thought. Your feet are killing you. I can imagine. um, I don't know how long you've been watching, Petra, but we were talking earlier about how Kevin and I have actually been to NAB before. Um, the one thing I forgot to mention is yes, your feet will hurt. um, your feet. The Las Vegas Convention Center is absolutely huge. And I believe is it two floors, or I forget now. It's like there's an upper and a lower floor. I don't remember. It's been so long. But it's a lot of walking. Um, there's a lot of walking. Okay, Bob is now subscribed. Kevin's worked in conventions there. That's good. Oh, I have 17 people watching. Wow, that is definitely the largest audience. Looks like 17 watching, but only 9 likes. If you could like the stream, I would appreciate it. I actually never gave. I never gave an update. I failed to do that. Let me call up my app because it's the easiest way to find it. Currently sitting at 1,559, so 1559. The last week's episode in the solar eclipse has 200 views, which is awesome. Currently sitting at, this is a new record for me, 2,742 public watch hours. I think that is up at least 40 since the last stream. Seems like every day I log in and there's more and more. Um, um, so yeah, I mean that last stream got 200 views in like 4 days. So I guess being top relevant on the topic helps. um, yeah, getting up there. Um, so yeah, so we're getting there, slowly but surely. Um, so getting up there. So David, NAB is in Las Vegas every year. Uh, so people like Petra, who had to fly all the way over here to attend Las Vegas or to go to Vegas because NAB is only held in Vegas. For as long as I can remember, my dad was a TV engineer for 42 years, and as long as I can remember, he's mentioned NAB being in Las Vegas. Um, yeah, I bet Petra got her definitely got the air miles in this one. I'm curious, how far a flight or how long did you have to travel to get to Vegas, Petra? Um, I can only imagine that's got to be a long trip. Yeah, I believe they do a small NAB in New York City. That is true. I believe they do that now. Don't usually see much out of that one though. The big announcements always happen at NAB in Vegas. Probably second largest convention area after Vegas. Probably Florida. Uh, Chicago has a bunch. New York City obviously has a bunch, but California actually probably California probably has a lot too. Yeah, NAB New York is at B&H. No, it's not, but that's a funny joke. Yeah, IBC is the basically international version of NAB. It's where I forget where IBC is. Um, does that move or does that always the same place? I don't remember. Uh, so Kevin, Tech for Fun, Joe actually lives like not too far from New York City and has been to B&H and actually did a whole video on going there one time. Yeah, I think Chicago's got a lot of conventions. Ernesto says he's only a few hours away. He lives in Arizona. If you can manage to go, it's a great experience. Oh, Nil says IBC is in Amsterdam. Okay. Worked. Bob's worked in Vegas and Orlando. Yeah, Orlando has a lot. I would think California might be big though, but maybe I'm wrong. Every time you go to New York City, you swear. Yeah, I want to go see B&H once. We drove by it on a family vacation. Like, well, I think it was in 2000 or 2001 when we were in New York City. We drove by it and was like, cool, there it is. But we never actually went in. Alrighty. Let me see here. So, 17 viewers, 13 likes. That's awesome. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm so happy that you're all here. I'm glad this is an international affair. We have people from Amsterdam and all kinds of stuff here, so that's great. Let me go back to the webpage because I wanted to show a couple of other products that Blackmagic released that are kind of relevant to the same thing. They offer this new switch they offer has these kind of interfaces, and this is great because if you're hooking up sources, you kind of need to know the bandwidth. So, and this is where we get into an interesting conversation. So, Bob says, even I've been there. Well, good for you, Bob. I haven't. Anyway, so bandwidth. You know, video bandwidth changes based on the quality. So 720p, famously what I use here, is 1.5. 1080i is 1.5. 1080p is 3. Well, if you're doing a 10 gig connection, you have to make the math work. So if you're doing a 10 gig connection, you can only have 3 1080p signals inside of that on that cable. Yes, you have essentially one left over, but you only can do 3. So if you want to go up to like 4K, and you know, which is I think either what is 4K? Is that 6 gig? 12 gig? I know 12 gig is a thing. You essentially you go over the limit of the 10 gig connection that most people can set up pretty easily these days. It's also kind of why I find it, you know, everyone's like 2.5 gig. Well, 2.5 gig's great for the home, but 2.5 gig doesn't do anything for video because most people these days that are shooting video, contrary to what Joe says, are at 1080p. A lot of all the football games, all that stuff, some of it's being shot at 4K, but most of it's being done at 1080p, or I should say it's being distributed at 1080p with HDR, which is 3 gigs. And because you can put those feeds inside of a 10 gig connection and you can make that easily work. Now, the one thing I've actually heard, and this is just a footnote that I've heard, I haven't read this anywhere yet, but apparently Blackmagic acknowledged or has said that their 12 gig IP standard can fit into a 10 gig connection, but is not compatible with anybody else's standard. So if this is indeed true, then this is a problem going forward. And this is where I mentioned earlier in the stream standards. Because if you're making standards that aren't compatible with other people, but you're calling it 2110, that's a problem. It's like the SDK version 3 and 4 with NDI. You say you speak NDI, but if you're changing things ever so slightly, then you create an issue. So if I was going to use Blackmagic products, I would have to go verify what standard am I using and what standard are they using, which creates more work. It's also could create incompatibilities, which is not good. So, and we all know, about the streaming bridge, where Blackmagic released a streaming bridge, and it only talks to other Blackmagic component or Blackmagic devices, even though it's just RTMP in the background. So then they released the software version or the firmware version that supports SRT. And we did testing with SRT. I don't know if it was, I think it was Nils actually sent me, I think it was Nils, sent me an SRT stream, and his feed worked, came into the streaming bridge, but I could not send an SRT feed to it because I did not have a Blackmagic product. So this is where I'm excited about what Blackmagic is doing, but I'm also hesitant at the same time, because if I'm shooting 4K, which there are reasons to do that, but I'm saying if I was shooting 4K and had to use the 12 gig standard, well, now I'm locked into using Blackmagic's gear, which it doesn't necessarily means I can't talk to a Sony switcher. So that's a problem. I don't know why they made that choice. I would have just said we don't support that, because now you're basically making them live in your ecosystem. So pros, the Blackmagic's doing all this. Cons, they're not compatible if you use the 12 gig standard. And so yeah, let's go back to chat. Bob is from Kanukistan. Bob is from Canada, yes. Kevin is not a fan of 1080i. So there's a long story about resolutions, and yeah, we're not going to get into it right now, but yeah. Yeah, okay, sorry. So 4K is used by people like Joe who shoot commercials or productions. 4K is not used in the TV industry every day. It's becoming more and more popular, but definitely not widespread. We have one camera, I think, that shoots 4K in our entire building. And we constantly have issues because people want to throw 4K video around and stream it across the network. And you know what doesn't work very well? 4K across the network. At least not our network. It's like trying to button my pants. Yeah, we're gonna need a bigger boat. Definitely gonna need a bigger boat. Okay, so this Nils knows more about this than I do. So they're taking 4K and they're stripping out some of the color and they're blurring the edges to make it fit. Yeah, it doesn't make me feel good about it. See, so Kevin does. We're just gonna say imaging. I don't know how much I want to share about what Kevin does. If he wants to share, you can share. But let's just say Kevin does imaging, and they're 4K compatible, and they've done it exactly once. Because people think they want 4K, and they may or may not actually want or can't use 4K in live videos. I don't do any pre-production or post-production work. So I understand that what Joe does and what I do is different because I deal with live television. I don't do editing or production like that work. That's a very different world than what I live in, which is live television. So I think you all know that. But I want to make sure I just clarify that when I talk about video work and whatnot, I'm talking about live television and live television only. I'm not talking about pre-production or, sorry, post-production work, commercial work, just live TV. Oh yeah, Ross. Ross is another company I forgot to mention earlier. I think Ross does. Does Ross support 2110 yet? They probably do. They probably announced it today, and I just missed it. Ross makes some good stuff too. I've used one of their switchers before. I am definitely waiting for Doug's video and uh, Aaron's video. I definitely want to see them break down. In case you didn't know, Doug Johnson has a YouTube channel. It's Doug Johnson Production. He built a trailer. He does a lot of work. He claims to do a lot of 4K, which I mean, I believe him. I just don't understand, I guess, what kind of gigs he's doing. He does not do sports. I know he made a comment that he rarely ever does sports. But Doug Johnson bought the Blackmagic 2110 converters, the original Blackmagic product that supported 2110, and he thinks there's buffering in frames. I would not be surprised by that at all. So Doug Johnson bought them for testing, and then he sold them to Aaron Parecki, who is going to do a video on it. I thought he was going to release that video before NAB, but he has not done that. So like I said, I would love to see some of these 2110 videos, products, I mean, be broke down in videos. Or Blackmagic, if you're watching, you can send me some stuff and I'll test them. Because it's really just curious. Like, I did catch on in the video feeds, they said that the 2110 converters, the standalone units, I guess they can talk back, or you can like go in there and you can choose video sources. But if you buy a 2110 deck link card to put in a computer, there's no option to choose your video source. So that's where that NMOS comes in. You almost have to buy a router if you're going to do the deck link cards, because there's no option to tell them what video feed to listen to. At least that was kind of what I got out of Doug's stream the other day. Maybe I'm wrong. I was watching it while I was working, but I remember Doug talking about how he had to spin up an NMOS server to make things work. So, so Kevin does live events. Yeah, okay. And he does 4K projection, but video only does 1080p. Or 4K content, but video is only 1080p. No way. There's no way you do 720p. I think you'd refuse to do it. A 17K camera. What are you shooting? Are you the Hubble Space Ghost or Space Station? What is it called? Space Telescope. That's what it is. Oh, like I said, I want to see 2110 videos. Uh, the only 2110 video review I've seen so far was the guy. What is his name? He changed his YouTube channel. He does video wall stuff. Yeah, the James Webb Telescope. Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of. Thank you, Eric. Is it Brandon? Brandon, his YouTube channel escapes me. It's like Masters Production something Mastery, whatever. Anyway, he broke down the 2110 converters, but that's the only person I've ever seen break them down, and he didn't really dive into like any bandwidth testing or any of that kind of stuff, which I would love to see. I think he did do an iMag, or he did like a delay comparison, but I don't remember the results of that. So I'd like to see a couple more people break those products down, just to get a good feeling. And the other thing I should say, and I haven't talked about any of this stuff, is the 2110 prices. The prices for this gear is not bad. It is very reasonable for what they're doing, and they're putting in this stuff. I mean, if we go back to the product pages here for a second, so we didn't even get to break all the products down yet. Where's the products? So yeah, so here's a IP to HDMI. I think it was $295. Then there's a IP to 3G, or this 12G. So, and I think that was like $395. They made some of these other presenters. Um, what are the prices? Yeah, so here you have the IP to HDMI for $295. That's crazy. That is awesome and just incredible. Here is their IP an SDI, and it's only 365. I mean, that's incredible. They have this IP converter, which I believe power PWR provides PoE power. It's only $2,000, and it can convert 4 video feeds to 2110. You know, like they're bi-directional converters. I mean, that's for $2,000 you can convert IP 4. You can convert 4 SDI feeds to IP. I mean, these prices are just incredible considering what you're getting. So this was the first one that they released a while ago. This is the 3-in-1 or 3-in, 3-out converter. This is basically allows you to plug 2 of these in and you can send and receive 3 video signals. That's a great price for what that does. Absolutely incredible. So this is why I'm saying like what they did is great. I just have a couple of concerns about like when you get to 12G, because I think shaving it down to work with 10G is a bad decision. But you know, if you're doing 1080p, it doesn't matter. It's only 3 gigs per second, and you can do that all day long. So would love to see more videos on this. Would love to see some operability, your interoperability test. I'd love to take that, and if I had a product like a Grass Valley switcher, plug it in and see if it works, because I would love to know the answer to that. So Joe says you should buy one. Yeah, would definitely love to get my hands on one. Yeah, AV Mastery, I think, is the guy's channel. I can't imagine how expensive. What do you store that media on? Yeah. I mean, what's the data rate of 12, or sorry, what's the data rate of 17K video? I mean, do you just feed it SDs like for every minute of video, like a whole SD card? I mean, bye, Bob. Yeah, 10 gig switches aren't the cheapest thing. Yeah, I mean, Blackmagic should create a switcher that takes in 2110. That would definitely be the next logical step. Um, I know Sony does. I know Grass Valley does, and I feel like Ross does. But for the home market, the consumer market, the low end production, if you will, yeah, you're probably gonna want a Blackmagic switcher that can handle 2110. Well, I'm assuming they do, but I'm just saying, like, do you still got to feed one at a time? Like, how much record time do you get if you're recording that high? Oh, Nils, I forgot about their, yeah. Oh boy. um, Black Magic and their communications. So, um, one of the things Black Magic does is they use uh, audio channels 15 and 16, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's 16 for sure, but I think it's 15 and 16 as kind of like their intercom system. And while that's great, and that's a creative way of doing it, because most people don't use channels 15 and 16. Most people don't even know that SDI can handle 16 channels of audio, and it can. So if you're a Blackmagic person, if you have all Blackmagic gear and you're using your the Blackmagic system for TalkBack, which is using channels 15 and 16. If you plug that into anybody else's gear, now your intercom is potentially in the mix. It's there on 15 and 16, and somebody could record it, somebody could broadcast it. So I, think it's cool that Blackmagic thought outside the box. However, when you're talking to other people, when you're talking to a Ross product or a Sony product that doesn't use that for intercom, there's a potential there for an issue. It's probably not likely to happen, but it's something you got to think about. That if you're going to plug into a Dejero or a TVU or a satellite truck, and you're going to send them audio from your production, you probably got to think about 15 and 16 and you get whether or not that person or get rid of it, because you could be setting your intercom somewhere where you don't want it. So it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying what Blackmagic does is wrong. I just feel like they broke the standard, they broke the mold, and I don't like it. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I tell you what, if they can release an ATEM or a 1ME switcher that has a 2110 port, like a 100 gig port on the back that could talk to their router, that'd be pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. Good night, Toro. Are you losing me? I don't hope you're not losing me. I have been having pfSense issues, and we can talk about that in a minute, but I think it only breaks up when I stay on the web page too long. I think we had that issue before, where if I'm not on screen, then we lose the bit rate enough where you'll actually notice it at home. Yeah, if I stay on the web page too long, I think it loses my audio. It's still breaking up for you. Okay. I don't know why. Kevin says he's losing it too. It wasn't happening on the webpage? Oh, interesting. I don't know. Interesting. Well, let's see here. What's my pfSense showing me? Can I show this page? I'm only doing 4 megs. It's constant bitrate right now. Like it's at 4 megs. No packet loss. Interesting. Eric says it's stable for him. David, restart the stream. I get 10. I know. I really need to figure out if I can do more. It really annoys me. YouTube considers my stream healthy. It has not given me any complaints about anything, really. We've lost some viewers. We're down to 11. All right. So people are saying it's YouTube. Okay. Awesome. All right. So where was we left? I feel like Petra left us. Maybe she's still here. I don't know. Alrighty. Okay. So what we talking about? We were talking about the converters. Um, so yeah. So anybody else any questions about 2110 Black Magic? Like I said, I have not gone through each product, um, but I did definitely read about their 2110 stuff. Um, yep. Here's your NMOS protocol for building a virtual router. Um, definitely need that. All right, so well, the fact that they released an audio monitor that also supports 2110, that's a good thing. Their audio monitors have been pretty solid for me. When I've used the one I'm thinking of at work is great. They released a new switcher 4K. I believe this is the panel. Um, I think Joe, this is the one that you were buying or you bought. I think, is that right? This seems kind of cool if you have a switcher and you want a panel because their old panels were huge and expensive. Yeah, this is the panel Joe bought. Definitely see a use case for that if you have a switcher, by all means. Oh, this is the thing that I thought was interesting as well. So we were talking about big video routers. Um, so they were announced a 120 by 120 SDI video hub, and so it's about 13 grand. And um, like I said, I have a video router at work that's 128 by 128, and it cost a lot more than 13 grand. But the idea of having one, in because we had video router issues last year, the idea that I could get a video router for 13 grand and have almost all the same inputs and outputs, that's crazy. Um, I mean, that's just the fact that they could release one and get it all into a frame for that price is just, that's pretty impressive too. I mean, that a lot of trucks or a lot of small trucks could be could run off a 121 by 120 by 120. Um, a lot of the big trucks, like that Kevin and I used to work in or work at occasionally, are more like 512 by 512. But I mean, 120 by 120 of SDI video, that's pretty impressive for 13 grand. I got to hand it to them. That's another one of those things that I said, wow, okay, guys, that's pretty cool. Um, so, question, without the switch, I'd need a server. For 2110, I believe, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna create a matrix or a video router, then you would need an NMOS server to change the routing for you. Um, I do not know of a way. Again, I've never actually seen one of these things before, like in person, but based on the screenshots that I see, there's no way for the video cards to pull in a video feed. You have to basically control it, and that's what NMOS does. So if you don't have their little switch, you've got to run an NMOS server. And um, Doug Johnson hinted at that the other day that he ran one. I don't know which one he ran. I don't know that there's any freely available out there. I could be wrong, but like I said, I really wish that Doug Johnson would do some videos. He's talked about them. He's never done them before. And then Aaron Parecki said he was going to do some 2110 stuff, but he hasn't released them yet. So, but yeah, I believe if you don't get that switch, you need to run an NMOS server to route your video around, unless you're just doing point to point. So if you plug a card in or one of those converters on one end and you plug it in a converter on the other end, it has an auto discovery feature from what I've read that'll work. But if you want to plug into a switch, you need to use NMOS. The micro panel got a lot of attention on the Here to Record Discord. I bet it. I bet it did. David's going to get one for church. That's a good question. I would have to assume so, but that would be an assumption. I actually don't know. I mean, Blackmagic Control they're using essentially part of the SDI spec to do it, so maybe that's a good maybe on that one. Oh, Clear Life Media's here and says yes, they will. So I assume so, but Clear Life Media says that they will. Yes, if you buy the 3x3 converters that I was just showing for $5.95, there you can pick what goes out of what feed you're listening to. Like they have essentially like a small NMOS configuration in them. But what I know for a fact that Doug Johnson has said when he did his live stream the other day is that the deck link cards you put in don't have that option. So, and then the new mini converters they released, I don't think they do either. So, a point-to-point link I think works, but I think if you're using any kind of switching environment, then you need NMOS. The problem is your router is the show, so it has to be stable. Yes, this is a very good point. Blackmagic is not exactly known to be the most stable thing in the world. Ask me, I know. We have tried to use Blackmagic products at work, and in our world, 24/7. It's got to run 24/7, or we're not using it. And we have been burned several times by Blackmagic products that do not work 24/7. So, Kevin brings up a good point. Like, if your show is dependent upon this router, how, or whatever it is, do you want to trust Blackmagic? Joe says Blackmagic's not always stable, but having multiple bugs recently. Just happened tonight. Yeah, their encoders. If you've got a good internet connection and a good, whatever, but I've heard some horror stories about their encoders. That one seems to be a different issue. That seems new to me. Yes, absolutely. That's what makes 2110 an IP video great is that you can have one source and you can have multiple things receiving it because it's multicast. And so your switch has to be able to support that kind of thing. So you need a really good switch with 2110. But the idea is, yes, you could have one source and it could feed multiple devices. Or like my example earlier is you could have, let's say, a camera, on a putting green for a golf tournament, and it can have audio and video going through it, and the audio board can subscribe to the audio feed from that camera, and the switcher can subscribe to the video feed from that camera, and the replay unit can record both, and therefore you only are feeding back that let's say 3 gig connection, and then the switch is basically multicasting into everything that needs it. So bandwidth planning 2110 is a very big part of it. So like we were talking about earlier, if you're doing a let's say a 720p feed and you have a 10 gig connection, you can do 6, right? 6. Yeah, you can do 6 feeds on one cable, but if you're doing 1080p, now you can only do 3 feeds on one cable. Or if you're doing 4G or 4K, you can do one-ish. I think you could do 4K 30 without any issues, but the 4K 60 is where you run into the issue. I could be wrong. Um, no, the camera doesn't care. The camera is sending out one multicast stream, and the switch is doing all the work. So in the big production trucks that I've seen, their switches are almost always Arista. I've never used an Arista switch, but I know for a fact, I think it's Game Creek. I think uses Arista, or no, NEP uses Arista. Shit, no, don't quote me on that. One of those two big people uses Arista for their switches because the switch is doing all the work, not the camera in this example. Kevin says, "Do you think they'll come up with 2210 by the end of the by 2110?" Yeah, I'm sure they'll. Yeah. Oh, you're funny. I believe, yeah, I believe Arista switches are expensive. Um, I wouldn't say they're all that expensive, but those are all FS switches. Give me actual Arista switches. Give me just a damn switch. Come on. Products. This might be one of those things where if you have to ask, um, yeah, I think Eric's right. I think if you've got to call and ask, I don't think you can just get prices. Um, hey, look, get in touch today. Contact us. Yep, I'm pretty sure you have to call. Um, but yeah, these are the kind of switches that these people use because they have a lot of requirements for the amount of IP video they are sending around. Although I have seen somebody on YouTube, I forget who it was. Somebody on YouTube did buy a used Arista switch, and they showed it on a video. I don't remember who that was though. Um, yeah, I mean that's the I guess the whole point of multicasting is that the sending device only sends one copy and the switch is doing all the work to duplicate the packets to everybody else. Neil says, contact them. Maybe they'll send a review unit. I mean, if I was going to, you may or may not remember, but I guess there was a time where I was considering going to work for one of the two big production companies, trucks companies in town or in the country. I did some work for a small company, but I was considering, changing jobs like 2 years ago, and I thought about it. Like, if I actually consider switch companies, I was actually thinking about like getting an Arista switch because I think it'd be kind of important to know that, because that becomes your router. I mean, currently, like a lot of these big trucks, they're SDI routers, and so people know that. But when it's a network switch, it's kind of hidden. Like you can't see the things working as well because they're just ports, and they're engineers, like the old school engineers, think about it differently. And so, and this isn't to knock them. I've had a conversation with a truck engineer one time, and he showed me kind of how his network was set up in the truck. And I was like, from an IT point of view, I was like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. So, I could see where like they don't understand IP. It's kind of a black magic to them. I guess that's a bad pun, a bad joke. Um, but yeah, I was actually like, I actually want to get my hands on an Arista switch just to see like how different is it? Are the commands similar? Or is it, is it all command line? Is there a web page? Like, I'm kind of curious to know. Sorry, it's a bad joke. I know, Kevin. um, yeah, bad pun. The solution Blackmagic needs to put in their encoders is to limit the number of TCP retries and discard stuff. Yeah, their encoders. Multiple people have complained about their encoders enough times to know that they definitely have some issues. Um, why I don't understand, but they apparently do. Let me see if I can find. I have a photo I want to share. I don't know if I can find it or not. It's on my Nextcloud server. Let me go see if I can find it. Please talk amongst yourselves while I find this photo. That's the wrong directory. Guarantee that. Production trucks. It's a pretty cool photo. I really do. I want to find it. Oh, my Nextcloud runs so slow sometimes. I really wish I could figure out why it runs so slow. Oh, come on. It was a Facebook photo that was shared by, I want to say, NEP or Game Creek, and it was like, it showed all their switches and their fiber connections, and it was really cool. But it's not cooperating with me because, of course, why would it? All right, so let me go back to chat. So yeah, so I'll hit up Kevin and we'll figure out a time when he can come on with us. I'm sure Kevin, yeah, I'm sure you have lots of cool photos from places you've traveled. Yeah, the wiring is definitely impressive. My Nextcloud, I think I gave it enough cores. I really think it's just Nextcloud being slow. I just don't think the software is written in a way that makes viewing files fast. I mean, I could be wrong. Um, Let me just do a Google search and see if it, because I think it's it's really cool. This photo. NEP Arista switches. Game Creek, it looks like, does use Arista. Is there a picture? I'm looking for a picture. No. All right. Well, this may be something you have to hold over for next week because I can't find the picture I'm looking for. And that search does not come up with results that I like. Oh, never mind. Here it is. Oops, wrong window. Accept. So this is off an article by NEP, who is a truck company, and this is an article off of State of 2110. Copy image link. Go here. Paste. So this is the inside of one of the trucks from NEP, and there is their Arista switch. So you can't see the whole thing, but can I zoom in? No, I already am zoomed in. So it looks like the DCS. I can't even read what that says. But yeah, so there's NEP inside of one of their new trucks. Everything's an IP connection. Wouldn't surprise me if one of these servers is redundant, NMOS. They not all Arista because that's a Cisco, but you can see just how much networking is in these new trucks, and this is if you believe these are SDI to IP converters. So that's converting all SDI into IP, and then they're running over here into this. So I can share that link out, I believe. Yeah. So there's the website. So there's the link. You can all click on it and make it your background. David says, need more IOPS. Yeah. Every Nextcloud user has a love-hate relationship. Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it does a great job for what it is, but I just think it's slow. Oh, now you're causing memories or nightmares for Joe. Jeremy says, I haven't had any real issues with Nextcloud being slow. There was an article on video recently where someone said they hated on Nextcloud for 3 years. No, he didn't say that. But I would love to know if you could find that. I would love to know because I'm not saying I didn't configure it wrong. I'm just saying it is definitely slow. Like it finally rendered my whole folder of photos. It just took it forever. And now it works once it all rendered all the stuff, but it just took forever to render. And there's the photo. I did find it. Just was not where I wanted. I had turned out it was easier to go to Amazon and find it, or Amazon. Easier to go to Google. But yeah, so be really curious to know. No, I do not believe there is any. No, there's no. There are. I don't believe there are any compression standards. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But I do not recall there being any like compression standards. No, like it will not go across the internet. Wow, that goes back. So yeah, when Kevin and I were learning how to edit, we had to use a company called Media 100, and I'm pretty sure nobody on here is gonna know what that is. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. I would be willing to bet. The admin interface. Yeah, no, if on my Nextcloud, if I go to admin settings, I get a green check mark. um, Actually, right now it says there's 24 errors. What's there 24 errors about? Error index not permitted exception could not create folder app data OCQSP blah 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 preview. It just threw 4 errors in the last 4 seconds because it couldn't create a preview. Interesting. One of the error records is there's no DNS record found for api.met.no, which is the weather forecast data. A couple more DNS errors. Actually, there's several DNS errors. Temporary. Huh. Keeps throwing a thing on DNS pin middleware.php. Okay, so it's true. It's always DNS. Yeah, there's no like low compression. Like there's not like a because in NDI there's like HX, which is like really low, like really high compressed video. There's no low quality version of 2110. Um, and I think there's only there are some flavors there is no compression, right? Like 2110. Oh, what? Don't remember the exact standards. Well, it's a suite of standards, I guess. So the way to refer to it. um, oh, so 211020 is uncompressed. 211022 is constant bitrate compressed. Then you have 211030, which is audio. And then there are various other things. Although reading this, it says 211020 is actually suitable for less bandwidth live location. But you'd have to compress it a lot to get down to do that. So I don't know if I don't know if that works the way I would think it would work. That's interesting. Says it's less than 1 millisecond delay even using compression, which, okay. I was not aware that it was doing that low, that you could put it across the internet. That's new to me. But that's what it says here. I don't know if that just seems weird to me. Could be wrong. I'm definitely not an expert. I tell people that all the time. I am not an expert. If you're trusting me for everything, then yeah, that's what it says. It says less than 1 millisecond for compression. It seems weird to me. Kevin, we've done several things like that before, where we try to fix stuff here. Um, there was a stream a while ago where I tried to bring a remote guest in, and it went really, really bad. People loved it, but it was definitely not it was a struggle. We'll just say that. I did switch to TrueNAS. Oh, I should probably get an update on that. um, yeah, Joe says we break more than we fix. That's true. Um, and yes, vMix is great for remote guest. Yes, that was the phone call stream. Whereas Joe points out, I couldn't make a phone call because I don't know reasons. I I think every gremlin came out that night. It was a it was a interesting night to say the least. Um, oh, I should probably share my shirt. So I got a shirt for my birthday. It says, "I'm the best thing my wife ever found on the internet." So um, I'm actually not using vMix. I actually got my hands on a little fly pack, and it's a Blackmagic switcher, um, a little mixer. It's got a hyper deck in it, and then there's a audio encoder and a network switch, and then I got a camera in front of me, and then below that is a big monitor that's hooked up to the output of the switcher, so I can route, like program or multi-viewer or whatever into the monitor that's below the camera right here, and then I have a laptop, which is what I'm sharing the web pages through. And so the Stream Deck is controlling a Raspberry Pi that runs Companion, and Companion talks to the switcher. So I'm switching by pushing buttons on the Stream Deck, and that's controlling a Blackmagic switcher. Hence the 720p. Thanks, Nils. So I'm 720p because when I try to go 1080p, things just broke in lots of ways. And so I recently switched over to, I used to have a computer down here that was running OBS, and now my computer it's a virtualized OBS on my virtualization server doing PCI pass through. So for my graphics are actually, this is actually, oops, there you go. This is a a plugin for Chrome that is being played out on OBS, and then I'm doing key and fill on a switcher. Very old school. I like it in a lot of ways because it's just kind of there and works. And I didn't really want to buy a whole like big computer to do vMix, but in hindsight, I probably could have and should have. But yeah. Yeah, I had to go off camera for a solid minute. It was not. I can confirm Joe was having a good time. He sent me a video of, or Ashley sent me a video of him laughing hysterically. Um, yeah, yeah. Joe thought that was just hilarious. See, Kevin feels that pain. He's done that before. Yeah, every time I touch 1080p, the house shuts down. I believe the switcher does. I believe it does support 1080p. Yeah, we tried it the one time. Remember? Failed miserably. Um, so if I go in here, I can actually support up to 1080p 60. I should go back to here and just I should go back to here and do widescreen SD. That would be hilarious to go to do widescreen SD. So yes, it does actually 1080p. Do I have a bug? No, that's a mark. Jay doesn't support 1080p. Echo Lab. Wow, I haven't thought about that in forever. All right, now I feel like I gotta go show a photo. Because hold on, I've made two references to our old studio tonight. I feel like we need to go find some photos to share. And yes, Jeremy, I did see you sent me a message. LiveLink 24 was a 2.4 gigabit or 2.4 gigahertz wireless system that we owned for doing live shots. I built a Pringles can antenna, and we could then do live shots on anywhere on campus. And it was so powerful that even though it was on the ground pointing away from the receiver, we still got perfect reception in our testing. So, yeah. Pringles can antenna. And then someone stole it. Like literally one day we went to go use it and the Pringles can was gone. Like the antenna was missing. So, um, yeah, fun stuff. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just a mark. Yeah, we built a Pringles can because it's 2.4 gig, and you can do Pringles can. You can do 2.4 with a Pringles can, and so we had these because it was initially it was just like plates, like panel antennas, and we could do live shots. They just weren't very good, and so because it was just 2.4, the engineer at the time, Jim, he was like, let's build a Pringles can, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like this a thing? And he's like, yeah. So we built a Pringles can antenna, and it definitely made reception better. um, yeah, kind of. Yeah, you could build a Pringles. Yeah, see, so David's done something similar. You just get a Pringles can and hook it up. Let me go find some photos from back in the day. Um, and again, Nextcloud's being annoying. Oh, come on. Oh, come on. I can't grab a hold of the freaking thing. I need a better setup. Hold on. I can't move the damn screen to see where I'm at. Done. Now I can. This will be a lot easier. So hold on a second. Let me go find my file I just downloaded. So this is me in college repairing an audio board, a DA board that had got fried by lightning. So then there was a burnt resistor in that one. Let me see what else I can find. Um, I wish this was faster. So this was a pretty cool box we built. Let me. So this was a headphone box we built with a headphone distribution amp. We built this for one of the podcast studios. I mean, this is mind you, this is 2003 ish, 2004. Yeah, so built one of those. That was for the radio station, so they could have their podcast or their studio headphone system. I don't remember why that we bought this, but this was a small micro wattage FM transmitter. I don't know why we bought. I forget why we bought this, but we put this whole thing together. We soldered the entire thing. I soldered that thing and put it all together. Took a long time. I don't remember what the use case for it was. Um, I don't know if that was after your time, Kevin. I don't remember if you'd know what that was for. Um, oh, here's an interesting photo. So this is oh, it doesn't like that photo. Come on. Because why would it? That would make too much damn sense. um, this will be a good photo once I convert it, because apparently the Blackmagic people don't like it. So let me find a different photo first, and then I'll compare it to the other photo, and you can all laugh. So this is, why is this not refreshing? This is the control room that Kevin and I used to produce newscast in. That is the Echo Lab switcher he referenced. On the left hand side is a Deco you use to make graphics. Um, this was all analog, if I remember correctly, all analog video. Um, this is the control room remodeled. Used to have a Mackie 24 channel audio board. Um, this was the server rack, if you will, and we had VHS, yes, VHS decks. The VR server was a hand-me-down from the PBS station. It allowed us to play files back. Those two PCs up top were actually our small business domain controllers that we had to run for the editing software we used, which was, or the newsroom software we called Easy News. On the right-hand side, towards the bottom, you'll see a switcher, which is the blue frame with a fan attached to it, because the fan would overheat, or the system would overheat. So we literally cut a hole in the front and put a fan on the front of it, so it would always get air movement across the switcher card. Um, yeah, it's I mean, yeah. So we remodeled it one day. One year we decided we were gonna cut it all out and remove it, and raise it up and do some other work, and so, and then I guess this is the best picture I have of it. I don't think it's it's kind of hard to tell for sure. But then that control room got remodeled and became this. So we actually had like furniture designed to have stuff mounted into it. We raised up the back so that you had a better viewing angle. We mounted the stuff kind of into the rack itself, so, or the desk, so it was more flush, made more sense, if you will. Um, so this was college. This was 2003 in college. We'll leave it at that. So, and then just because I think it's hilarious, um, where did it go? I can't find the picture. Come on. I just converted that photo. Why did it not work? Save as. Oh, it's in the wrong folder. That'd be why. So that was our control room back in the day. This is their current control room. A little bit different. They had a benefactor give quite a bit of money. And so this is their current control room. All right, so let's go back to the chat. Um, yeah, the cantina. Yep, that was totally the rage back then, I guess. Definitely do need to probably need a new server. Well, I need to figure out something. I'll definitely look into it. The servers are nice. I just think something's not configured right or something. David says he was very surprised how far the cantina worked. Yes, it worked out great. Uh, yeah, yeah. As Kevin points out, that building is gone. Um, it's been 20 years. Yeah, I feel old some days. Are you kidding me? You know, literally, I grew up doing analog television, so yes, 720p looks great compared to analog television. Yeah, it took me back there day too. That's a little bit yeah. And yes, they did trust they did trust Kevin and I to actually run the organization for a while. Um, Kevin ran it for 2 years, and then I ran it for 2 years essentially. Um, so we had time on the local cable access channel that the university ran. So at 5:30, uh, the the computer would take the control room, and then for half hours it was ours, and then we'd give it back. Assuming the computer worked, which didn't always work, and assuming we communicated, um, we were on at 5 o'clock or 5:30, and then it would re-air at 10. I think it was. Pretty sure it was 10. And so we would often do the show at 5:30, like go get dinner, hang out, do stuff, and then we'd often like go back and watch the replay because it was awfully cool to watch like the newscast you just did come on a channel and play. Um, because at this point most of us didn't have jobs in the industry, and then one by one the seniors would get you know Kevin would get a job, or Rebecca would get a job, and then like they'd go to the do it for a living, and then still just be involved because it was a student organization. But yeah, the control room today is just it's so different, so different. Yeah, when they put that they put this new center in, the radio stations, the TV stations. I mean, the technology is just incredible. They got a recording studio on site now. Like we didn't have a recording studio back then. So yeah. Well, anyway, I think it's 11. Wow, it is late. I should probably get going. Um, I want to thank you all for being here, especially Kevin for joining and going down memory lane. Yes, they have a legit green screen now, like crazy four-sided, whatever, five-sided green screen. Like it's, they don't have sets; they have virtual studios. So yeah, thank you all for being here. Like I said, Kevin, thanks. I will talk to you offline. The rest of you, thank you for always being here, and looking forward to talking next week. Thank you guys. And I forgot to change my graphics, so good night.